2 months. That is how long it took me to build a whole world around someone who could disappear in 2 seconds. We never officially became anything. There was no anniversary, no label, no dramatic promises under the stars. Just good morning texts, late night voice notes, inside jokes, playlists, small check-ins that made my day feel softer. And that was exactly why it hurt so much. Because when people hear the word ghosting, they imagine a casual thing, a random stranger, a weak connection. But that is not what it feels like from the inside. From the inside, ghosting feels like standing in the middle of a conversation that never ended. It feels like reading the same last message again and again, looking for a hidden meaning that is not there. It feels like being left alone with a door that was never properly closed, and your mind keeps pushing it open, hoping someone is still on the other side. I remember the exact moment I knew something was wrong. At first, it did not look dramatic. The replies just got slower, then shorter, then gone. I told myself to be cool. Maybe they were busy. Maybe something happened. Maybe I was overthinking. I did what so many people do when they are scared to lose something. I became more understanding than honest. I made excuses for someone who had not even asked for them. 1 day passed, then 3, then a week. And that is when the real pain started. Not because they were gone, but because my brain needed an explanation and could not find one. So I did what a lot of us do when we are abandoned without words. I turned on myself. I replayed every conversation. Was I too much? Too emotional? Too available? Too curious? Did I say something wrong? Was I boring? Did I reply too fast? Did I care too much? The strange thing about ghosting is that it does not just remove a person. It also removes context. And when context disappears, the brain tries to fill in the blanks. Most of the time, it fills them with self-blame. I used to think ghosting happened because the other person did not care at all. But later, I learned something uncomfortable and important. Sometimes ghosting is not about cruelty in the obvious sense. Sometimes it is about avoidance. Some people would rather disappear than face discomfort. They would rather leave you confused than feel guilty for 5 minutes. They do not know how to say, I lost interest. They do not know how to say, I am emotionally unavailable. They do not know how to say, I like the attention, but I cannot give you consistency. And instead of choosing honesty, they choose silence. Silence becomes their escape route. That does not make it harmless. In fact, that is exactly what makes ghosting so painful. The person who ghosts often avoids one hard conversation, but the person being ghosted carries 100 imaginary conversations alone. The ghoster escapes discomfort for a moment. The other person gets trapped in uncertainty for days, weeks, sometimes months. When I finally talked to a friend about it, I expected her to help me figure out what I did wrong. Instead, she asked me one question that changed everything. She said, "Why are you assuming their silence is the most truthful thing about you, instead of the most truthful thing about them?" I sat there, completely quiet, because I had never thought about it like that. Ghosting often says more about the ghoster's psychology than the worth of the person being ghosted. A lot of people ghost because they avoid conflict. They do not want to be the bad person. They do not want to deal with disappointment, tears, awkwardness, responsibility, or emotional consequences. Some people ghost because they fear intimacy itself. Things start to become real, so they run before expectations can reach them. Some ghost because they like the fantasy of connection more than the work of maintaining one. And some ghost because they have never learned how to end something with maturity. The painful part is this: understanding that does not instantly stop the hurt. I knew, logically, that disappearing was not a sign that I was unlovable, but emotionally, I still felt rejected. My body still reacted like I had been dropped. My mind still wanted one final message, one final explanation, one clean ending. I wanted a sentence that would let me move on, but ghosting rarely gives you that. And this is where I had to learn one of the hardest lessons of my adult life. Sometimes closure is not given. Sometimes it is made. That sentence changed the way I healed. Because I had been waiting for the wrong person to finish the story. I was waiting for the one who vanished to come back and explain the meaning of what happened. But the truth is, people who ghost usually do not return with the answer you deserve. And even if they do, the answer is often smaller than the pain. I was busy. I got overwhelmed. I am not ready. None of those sentences can fully repair the emotional loop they created inside you. So I started learning how to close the loop myself. First, I stopped treating uncertainty like a puzzle I had to solve. I wrote down the facts only, not my fears, not my theories, just facts. We talked consistently. They disappeared. They did not communicate. I reached out. They still did not respond. That is information, and information matters more than potential. This helped me separate what actually happened from the fantasy my mind was trying to protect. Second, I gave the silence its real meaning. Not a romantic meaning, not a mysterious meaning, a behavioral meaning. Silence is also communication. Disappearing is a decision. Avoidance is a pattern. I did not need one more message to know that inconsistency had already answered me. That was hard to accept, but incredibly freeing. Because once I stopped waiting for better wording, I could finally respect the message inside the behavior. Third, I created my own ending ritual. I wrote a message I never sent. In that message, I said everything I had been carrying. I said I was hurt. I said I had tried to understand. I said I deserved directness. I said their silence had forced me to make peace without them. And then I ended it with one line that healed something deep inside me. I released the need to be chosen by someone who could not communicate. That line was not magic, but it gave my emotions somewhere to land. Fourth, I stopped making my value depend on unfinished stories. This is so important. Ghosting can make you feel invisible. It can make you believe that if you were prettier, calmer, cooler, less intense, more interesting, they would have stayed. But someone else's avoidance is not proof of your inadequacy. It is proof of their limit. And if a person cannot handle honesty, consistency, or emotional responsibility, their leaving may hurt you, but it also reveals what kind of relationship you would have had to survive. I think that is the part we forget. We mourn the connection, but we often ignore the pattern. If someone disappears instead of communicating, the issue is not only that they left. The issue is that this is how they handle discomfort. Imagine a future with someone who responds to confusion with silence, pressure with absence, and vulnerability with withdrawal. The pain of ghosting is real, but sometimes the fantasy we lose is better than the reality we were heading toward. Now, when I think about those 2 months, I do not tell the story the old way anymore. I do not say, I was not enough, so they left. I say, I met someone who could participate in connection, but not in accountability. That is a completely different story. And the story you tell yourself matters because it becomes the shape of your healing. So if you are being ghosted right now, I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me sooner. Do not beg for clarity from someone who created confusion. Do not measure your worth by someone else's inability to communicate. And do not stay emotionally stuck in a room that the other person already walked out of. Closure is not always a conversation. Sometimes closure is a decision. Sometimes closure is saying, I may never know every reason, but I know enough. Enough to stop chasing. Enough to stop blaming myself. Enough to see that the ending itself is information. Enough to choose peace over obsession. I am Kaia, and the hardest part was not being ghosted. The hardest part was accepting that I had to finish the story without the person who started it with me. But the moment I did, I stopped waiting at the door, and that was the moment I finally got my life back.